China is obviously banking on the fact that the United States is looking for an off-ramp with China, and they are building up their capacity to invade Taiwan, which of course would be disastrous for the global economy. So right now, China has been withholding from some sort of blockade or attack on Taiwan. There are a couple of reasons. One, they're not quite sure what President Trump is going to do if there were some sort of blockade attempted against Taiwan. There are definitely members of the Trump administration who basically would abandon Taiwan to its fate, regardless of the consequences. You know, one of the sort of strange statements about this was made by Elbridge Colby, who is a deputy secretary of defense for policy. He's been a big proponent of the idea that we ought to shift our focus from the Middle East to China. But then he's also made statements like, if Taiwan gets attacked, we do nothing about it. So I'm not sure how that shifts the focus precisely. Now, China is basically banking on the United States not doing a lot about Taiwan, and or they are hoping that the United States, through its own trade policy, is going to sort of self-defeat, that the United States is going to weaken itself with its allies and thus lead to further inroads for the Chinese in their race toward artificial intelligence and artificial general intelligence. So the question for China is the window closing? If China believes the window is closing, then they absolutely could go for Taiwan. If they believe that the United States is weak and will do little, they could absolutely blockade Taiwan, and that would be global economic disaster. Again, the only reason for China to do that is if they actually believe that their window is closing. They're an aging country. They do have significant debt problems. Their economy has always been a bit of a paper tiger. And I don't mean here they don't have enormous manufacturing capacity. They do. But there is a vast income divide in China. A huge percentage of the population makes like $150 a month. And those people live out in sort of the rural areas of China. China has done a sort of incredible job of ensuring that its cities are not swelled with these people. They force people to stay in their own areas. And then they artificially boost buying in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. A lot of what we see sort of publicly from China is not exactly what is going on in China. So it is certainly true that they are sucking in money from the periphery, and then they are using it in a sort of fascistic and mercantilistic push for manufacturing supremacy, and that's particularly true when it comes to artificial intelligence. However, they do have some very serious burgeoning financial problems. Obviously, they have a big real estate problem on their hands. They have a demographic problem on their hands. There are folks like Kenneth Rogoff, who the American economist who teaches at Harvard University, who suggested that actually the Chinese rates of growth are likely to slow sometime in the near future. If that happens, are they more or are they less likely to make a move on Taiwan? The answer probably is more likely to move on Taiwan, which presumably is why, according to the Taiwan News, China has now strengthened its ability to rapidly attack Taiwan. The Chinese Air Force has expanded its combat radius with new fighter jets such as the J-10, J-16, and J-20, which can reach Taiwan from bases deep inside China without the need to refuel, a Taiwanese defense official told the Financial Times. Chinese military aircraft now enter Taiwan's air defense identification zone more than 245 times a month, compared to fewer than 10 times per month 5 years ago. According to Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense, aircraft also cross the Taiwan Strait median line roughly 120 times a month. In the naval domain, a U.S. official says the Chinese Navy and Coast Guard maintain a near constant presence of about a dozen ships near Taiwan. With access to nearby ports, Chinese ships could move into a blockade posture in a matter of hours. And forward deployment of vessels allows for faster coordination of airstrikes. Meanwhile, Chinese leader Xi Jinping has reorganized large army units into smaller ones, including 6 amphibious combined arms brigades along the southeastern coast, according to the Financial Times. U.S. Army War College expert Joshua Arostegui says, quote, "This reflects the PLA's renewed emphasis on Taiwan and lays the foundation for actual war-fighting capabilities." And of course, Joe Biden left the United States military in the lurch. The sort of trade posture originally taken by the Trump administration during Liberation Day, which is gradually being corrected, alienated a lot of the allies the United States would need to call on. And there remain open questions about what the United States would do in case of a Chinese move against Taiwan. China's banking on that. There's a lot of push right now. Russia is pushing in Ukraine. They're trying to prey on the sort of isolationist instincts in the Trump administration. They're trying to string along the Trump administration at the same time, upping the military ante. China is obviously banking on the fact that the United States is looking for an off-ramp with China. I do not think that China took, for example, the Trump administration's refusal to actually impose the TikTok ban as a sign of friendship. They took that instead as a sign of weakness, and they are building up their capacity to invade Taiwan, which of course would be disastrous for the global economy because Taiwan produces all the sophisticated semiconductors basically on planet Earth. We'll get to more on this in a moment. First, I always assumed that restless sleep was inevitable. Night after night of tossing and turning, waking up with an aching back, I'd convinced myself that's just how sleep was supposed to be. Then I tried Helix Sleep and everything changed. It's truly been transformative for my sleep quality. Now, I easily fall asleep in minutes. What makes Helix different is they don't just sell you a random mattress. They actually match you with the perfect one for your body and sleep style. Whether you're a side sleeper, back sleeper, somewhere in between, they have you covered. They make it so simple to get your best night's sleep every night. All you have to do is take their sleep quiz and get matched with a custom mattress based on your body type and sleep preferences. And trust me, when you find the right match, you'll wonder how you ever slept on anything else. Now, there's tons of benefits to my mattress. It happens to be firm and breathable, which is exactly what I need to sleep well. Right now, Helix is offering an incredible Memorial Day sale. Visit helixsleep.com/Ben. Get 27% off site-wide, plus a free bedding bundle that includes a sheet set and mattress protector with any Luxe or Elite mattress order. That's helixsleep.com/Ben for 27% off site-wide, plus a free bedding bundle with any Luxe or Elite mattress order. Again, just visit helixsleep.com/Ben for this exclusive offer. And then meanwhile, the Iranians seem to be openly strengthening their position in negotiations. They seem to believe that President Trump actually wants some sort of off-ramp with Iran more than Iran wants an off-ramp with the United States, which, if true, would be an insane proposition. Totally insane. Iran's skies are open. Iran is an extraordinarily weakened country. Its proxy forces have been devastated by Israel. Its economy is on a razor's edge. The Ayatollahs are unpopular in their own country. Why in the world would the United States be seeking an off-ramp faster than the Iranians? By what stretch of the imagination? It is a bizarre negotiation strategy to continue to maintain that you're having great negotiations while Iran is continually publicly strengthening its own position, rejecting your core demand. The United States' core demand by President Trump, again, this is the same president. President Trump was right in Trump 1.0. He said the Iran deal, the JCPOA, cut by Barack Obama, was the worst deal in American history. He was not wrong about that. He said it over and over and over. Why? The JCPOA essentially granted Iran a clear pathway to a nuclear bomb while allowing them to use funding for their ballistic missile development, for the funding of their proxy terrorist groups all over the region, ranging from the Houthis to Hamas to Hezbollah. It was an awful, awful deal, which is why President Trump pulled out of it. Why would he seek to re-enter such a deal? Simply to what? Placate the isolationists who mistakenly believe that if Israel bombed the Iranian nuclear facilities, somehow this would pose a grave global danger to the United States. On what planet? Please explain to me the chain of events. Please explain the chain of causation right there. Again, the sort of language coming from the Trump administration here is bizarre and mixed, shall we say, because what's being conveyed by the Americans is optimism about a deal. What's being conveyed by the Iranians is that they're not making any sort of real concessions with regard to their nuclear program. So here was President Trump over the weekend saying that the United States talks with Iran have been good.
Very importantly, we had some very good talks with Iran yesterday and today, and let's see what happens. But I think we could have some good news on the Iran front. Likewise with Hamas on Gaza. We want to see if we can stop that. And Israel, we've been talking to them, and we want to see if we can stop that whole situation as quickly as possible. But having to do with nuclear, we've had some very, very good talks with Iran.
Okay, very bizarre to say that we've had very, very good talks with Iran, considering the fact that according to the Iran International publication, Ahmad Bakshayesh Ardestani, a member of Iran's Parliamentary National Security and Foreign Policy Commission, told Didban Iran that the offer right now from Oman includes a temporary pause in enrichment with the possibility of resuming activities afterward. He says Tehran has not accepted the proposal due to concerns rooted in past experiences. He said the Omanis told us stop enrichment now for 6 months and then resume it again. But Iran has not yet accepted this offer because based on past experience, there's the likelihood of further excessive demands from the other side. So in other words, the Omanis are trying to push the Iranians into a 6-month pause. Why? What would a 6-month pause do? Number one, it would open up the Iranian economy. Number two, it would allow them to rebuild all of their air defense systems that Israel couldn't actually strike their nuclear facilities. And number three, it would push toward a JCPOA 2.0. Apparently, according to Ardestani, if negotiations break down, Iran possesses 300 kilograms of enriched uranium, an amount he said is sufficient to produce 10 atomic bombs. He said, quote, there will be a deal, and Iran will enrich at a level one step above the JCPOA. I mean, that's unbelievable. That's basically Iran spitting in the eye of the Trump administration while President Trump is saying the negotiations are going well, something is not being conveyed to President Trump. I don't know who's talking to President Trump. I don't know what the Witkoff team is doing in these negotiations. I don't know what the flow of information is. But the Iranians are openly spitting in the eye of the United States, taking these positions publicly. If President Trump is pissed at Zelensky, who gave him everything he wants on the rare earth minerals deal and the ceasefire and the direct talks, why is he so sanguine about the Iranians who are openly rejecting the key negotiating points in his demands? Over the weekend, Kristi Noem, the head of DHS, was on Fox saying that Trump will never accept a nuclear capable of Iran. Meanwhile, the Iranians are saying, we won't do a deal unless we're nuclear capable.
And the president will never accept a nuclear-capable Iran. He will never accept them having nuclear weapons and building the capacity to that. The intelligence information that they have and that Israel has and they share with the United States and that we also have and are using for those conversations is critically important. So I think the message to the American people is we have a president that wants peace, but also a president that will not tolerate nuclear Iran capability in the future.
Okay, so is that the position of the Trump administration, or is there going to be a giant cave? We don't know yet, and the Iranians don't know yet either, which is why they're pushing. By the way, the idea that the Iranian regime is somehow friendlier toward the West, or they've moderated in any way, weird, because the newspaper for Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, according to Fox News, praised the terrorist who murdered an American and Israeli Wednesday night in Washington, D.C., calling him, quote, our dear brother. Those are the people who are being negotiated with and who want a nuclear weapon, and who believe that if they just stall enough, President Trump will cut a deal. Well, President Trump, I don't believe he will cut a deal. I don't believe that President Trump is going to cut JCPOA 2.0, no matter who in the administration is urging him to do so. I don't think President Trump is going to cave on Taiwan. I don't think that's President Trump's way. I think that in reality, President Trump is a peace through strength president, but that needs to be conveyed, not just in words, but in actual forward posture, in military spending, in public statements, because again, the United States has spent the last 20 years being non-credible in its threats. The Trump administration was credible during Trump 1. Joe Biden was not credible in his threats. Barack Obama set red lines and then immediately obliterated them as soon as they met with the light of day. Well, that's all for now, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts down below. Be sure to check out all of the other great content on my channel. I'll see you here next time.